Hey there, this is Dave Julian, and I'm going to do a demo on how to remove the backgrounds from photographs that you're going to be bringing into your composites. So this is a composite I began in class the other day, and I'm just going to build on it because it's a pretty good demonstration of how this works. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so we can see this better. And we have a situation where we have someone who is photographed against a modeled background. And that means that her hairs, which were lit by a lot of bright daylight, are sticking right out into that background. We want to bring her into the regular composite without this background. So currently I'm in the Move tool, and the contextual bar that's now in Photoshop gives you several things you can do in different tools. This is the traditional method for removing the background, which is the quick selection tool. And once I enable it, I'm not going to use it this time. I'm going to use other tools that are now available to me that use AI. Now, before I remove the background using the most obvious and simple tool, I'm going to remind you that before we had these tools in this bar, 2024 and earlier, we could always go select subject. And that's a perfectly viable way of working. I'm going to let it happen. And once we have the marching ants on the outside, I go to make mask, and now I have the beginning of a good mask. But I'm going to back up with Command Z, which would be Control Z on a PC, excuse me. And I'm going to go Command D or Control D to delete the selections. But let's go into the automated method. Now, notice that there is a contextual menu bar that's used for this tool and for any selection tool that you choose. But this one happens to have select subject. That is important because either both select subject and remove background are both going to use two different ways of getting to their result, and they both can use AI. If I use the device, then it's using my computer's CPU and GPU to calculate these results. If you have a slower computer, you might want to use cloud instead, and I've been told that using cloud also can improve the accuracy of the way AI can help calculate the edge pixels. So I'm going to leave it on the cloud. Now, it requires that you have Wi-Fi, so that's important. I'm going to click Remove Background, let it calculate, and it did an amazingly good job. It did an amazingly good job finding the edges of her hair and removing the background. Now, that's great at first glance, but I'm going to zoom in and show you that we still have some things to handle here. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. The most express way of doing it is with a tool called Select and Mask, but we're not going to actually go into the tool here. We're going to double-click the mask, and it opens up into that interface. And that looks like this. So this is the Refine Edge interface. Notice this, we have a Refine Hair button. I'm very tempted to stop what I'm doing and go directly into that. So I'm going to click it, and let's see what it does. Amazing, amazing, amazing. It just took a lot of time away from us to have to play with these, although I really do want to demonstrate them to you. And it did a great job looking at the edges and calculating what to do. But look, it was too aggressive because the hairs here were starting to merge in with the background. So we went a little bit too far. And so I'm going to Command Z, which brings it back to the way it was when I first used Remove Background. I'm going to show you the tools that I was going to demonstrate in the first place. So these are Refine tools, and we start from the top and go down. Now, the first thing I want to show you is that the view method I'm using is called View on Layers, which lets you see the actual image that you want to composite against the rest of the layers that are beneath it. So that's my favorite view to work. But sometimes I like to view on black because it dims down the other layers and lets you really see the edges here. The benefit of that is in case you want to be a little bit more accurate in your refining the edge. But what I've learned from experience is that sometimes it lies a little bit about what kind of effect you're going to really get on your artwork, because your artwork will be lighter than this. So I like to go on layers. And that's just my talk about that. I also like to go to object aware unless I'm trying to remove the background from a highly colorful object. Now let's go deeper in. Edge detection. This is a big deal. So this changes the radius of the way Photoshop is looking at the pixels on either side of these hairs. So as I bring up the radius, you see that it's starting to do a better job isolating these hairs. It's doing some funky things here with regards to leaving some pixels behind. So we can improve the edge detection. And you can see the further I go, the more it chews into the pixels that were there. You can go too far and end up with some erosion here into her neck. So I'm going to go back here, be conservative, and show you some other tools. We also have Smart Radius, and that attempts to recalculate how the tool has worked so far. So you have to kind of keep your eye on things when you choose these and make sure that you know the difference between how they work and how they don't. We also have a Refine Edge brush, and that works by going over the edges of your work, and it helps it see the actual edges. It can also go too far. So I'm going to Command Z that so we can go back to where we were, because I want to show you some more tools. So this is always able to be changed. I'm going to close Edge Refine now. I'm going to close Refine Mode and go into Global Refinements. Before I show that, I want to show you this one here. This has to do with how it's going to calculate the edges of the colors of her hair with the colors of the background. I'm going to decontaminate and watch what it does. It started to already remove some of that extra background color. So this is one I reach for pretty quickly. I'm going to turn it on and off so you can see the difference. Watch her neck here. All right, so it's not making a big difference there. That's an area where these global refinements can be helpful. Contrast, that can help the tool see the edges of your subject away from the background. Shift Edge, if you go to minus, it starts to chew into the edges, or go plus. It starts to adjust the edges of how these hairs are rendering. But really for me, I like to take the Refine Edge brush and use it over the areas that are troublesome. Give it a second to calculate and see how it's working. I'm not going to try to get every hair perfect, because I know that once I start to work on this image, she may fall against a darker area or a lighter area, and I want to reserve some time to work on that. So whatever we do here, we can undo. I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's say I go too far here. I can hold down my Option key or Alt key on a PC, and the center of this tool turns into a minus sign. So that means removing what I just did. Now that we can see that easily, I'll go back down here with that key held down, and replacing the pixels that were overly done before. So Shift Edge, Contrast, all of these things have to do with how the tool calculates the edges of what you're trying to work with. Now these extra hairs here, those can be just simply removed in the mask using a brush. I don't want to use feather because it'll soften the selection edges, and I don't really want to use smooth because I've got very, very tight angles in here, and smooth would round those off. So a combination of decontaminate, on or off, and a combination of using these global tools such as contrast and shift edge. These are the things that are going to make or break the quality of your selections. And it's going to be different for each subject you go to work with. And the cool thing is we can accept all of these by hitting return, or you can click on the OK at the bottom of your panel, which might be cut off in the video. It's going to automatically create a mask. It usually duplicates the layer and creates a new mask. I'm going to throw away the original here. And now we have a much better version of her against the background. Now, I didn't spend the time to refine all of the edges perfectly, And because she goes from dark hair to light hair on either side, it's quite a challenge. But I can easily come in here and I can double click this anytime and come back to the Edge Refine tool, just like this. So I can always change my settings. And that's super helpful. So say OK. And that's the lesson so far. Don't need the extra layer. So thanks for watching.